The underground parking garage was cold, and the concrete walls made every sound echo like a ghost. Camille stood perfectly still next to her black Mercedes, her hand frozen on the door handle, unable to move or breathe. She had just returned from a 14-hour workday, exhausted and looking forward to going home, when she heard the voice. "Girl, you should see this car." The woman's voice bounced off the garage walls, sharp and excited. A Rolls-Royce Cullinan. Black with cream leather interior. Derek had it delivered this morning with a giant red bow on top. Camille's heart stopped. Derek. Her husband's name coming from a stranger's mouth in her company's parking garage. "I posted it everywhere," the voice continued, getting closer. Heels clicked against concrete. "His wife probably drives some basic car while I'm out here in luxury. He told me she doesn't appreciate him, that she's always busy with work and ignores him. Poor baby needed someone who actually pays attention to him." The laughter that followed felt like broken glass in Camille's chest. She pressed herself against her car, hidden behind a thick concrete pillar, invisible to the woman who was destroying her life without even knowing she was there. The best part? He used his business account. Told me he runs this huge automotive company. Girl, we're talking millions. And she has no idea he's been taking care of me for 2 years now. 2 years. The number hit Camille like a physical blow. 2 years of lies. 2 years of betrayal. 2 years of her working herself to exhaustion while her husband bought luxury cars for another woman. "Wait, let me send you a picture," the voice said, stopping just on the other side of the pillar where Camille hid. "You can see the building behind it. This is where his company is headquartered. Sterling Automotive Solutions. He's the CEO or owner or something. Either way, the man has money, and he's not afraid to spend it on me." Camille felt dizzy. Sterling Automotive Solutions. Her company. The company she had built from nothing, starting in a tiny garage 12 years ago with one employee and a dream. The company she had sacrificed everything for, worked every weekend, missed every vacation, poured her entire soul into creating. And this woman thought it belonged to Derek. "His wife's name is Camille or something boring like that," the voice continued, dripping with mockery. "He says she's always stressed, always working, no fun at all. Honestly, I don't know why he married her. Probably before he made all this money. Now he's stuck with her while he really wants to be with me." The woman's heels clicked away, her laughter echoing through the garage until the elevator doors closed and silence returned. Camille stood there for 10 minutes, maybe 20, unable to move. Her legs felt like water. Her hands shook so badly she dropped her keys twice trying to unlock her car door. When she finally got inside, she looked at herself in the rearview mirror. Her reflection showed a beautiful African-American woman with exhausted eyes, her hair pulled back in a neat bun, her expensive but practical suit wrinkled from the long day. She looked successful. She looked tired. She looked like someone who had been betrayed for 2 years without knowing it. Camille's phone buzzed. A text from Derek. "Working late again? There's leftover pizza in the fridge. Don't wait up for me. Love you." She stared at the message until the words blurred. "Love you." 2 words that now meant absolutely nothing. Her hands moved automatically, pulling up her banking app. Their joint account, the one she had added him to 5 years ago because he said it made him feel like they were a real team, showed a withdrawal from this morning. $50,000. The memo line read, "Personal expense. $50,000 for a car for his mistress." Money she had earned through 16-hour days, difficult negotiations and countless sacrifices. Money that was supposed to be building their future together. Money he had stolen to impress another woman. Camille scrolled further. There were dozens of withdrawals. Jewelry stores. Designer boutiques. Expensive restaurants she had never been to. 5,000 here. 10,000 there. 20,000 for something listed as travel expenses. Her vision tunneled. The numbers kept adding up in her head. Hundreds of thousands of dollars gone, given to a woman who mocked her in parking garages. Another text from Derek. "Actually, I might be home late tonight too. Client dinner. You know how it is." She knew exactly how it was. There was no client dinner. There was Heather, the woman with the Rolls-Royce and the designer heels and the cruel laugh. The woman who thought Derek was successful. The woman who had no idea that every expensive gift she received was bought with Camille's money. Camille put her phone down and started her car. The engine hummed quietly, a sound she usually found comforting. She had chosen this Mercedes herself 3 years ago, something reliable and professional for business meetings. Derek had complained that it wasn't flashy enough, that someone in her position should drive something that made a statement. She had ignored him, choosing practicality over show. Now his mistress drove a Rolls-Royce. Bought with her money. from her company account. While she drove a 3-year-old Mercedes and worked until her eyes burned. The drive home felt longer than usual. Every red light gave her time to think, to remember, to piece together moments that suddenly made horrible sense. Derek's new cologne. The way he had started going to the gym and buying expensive clothes. His sudden interest in high-end restaurants and luxury brands. She had thought he was having a midlife crisis at 39. She had been patient, supportive, understanding. She had been a fool. Their house sat at the end of a quiet street in a neighborhood Camille had purchased into 5 years ago. The mortgage was in her name alone, though Derek acted like he owned it. She parked in the driveway, noting that his BMW was gone. Another thing she paid for. Another thing he used to impress his mistress. Inside, the house felt empty and cold despite the expensive furniture and tasteful decorations. Camille walked through the living room, seeing it with new eyes. The 70-inch television Derek had insisted they needed. The leather sectional that cost more than her first car. The art on the walls that he had chosen, saying it made them look sophisticated. Everything in this house, she realized, was about image. About looking successful. About pretending to be something Derek wasn't. She found the leftover pizza in the fridge, still in its delivery box. Derek had ordered from the expensive Italian place downtown, the one that charged $30 for a pizza. Another purchase on their joint account. She threw it in the trash without eating any. In their bedroom, Camille sat on the edge of the bed and finally let herself feel everything she had been holding back. The hurt came first, a wave of pain so intense she had to press her hand against her chest. She had loved this man. Trusted him. Built a life with him. And he had betrayed her in the worst possible way, stealing from her to fund a relationship with someone who laughed at her. But underneath the hurt, something else was growing. Something cold and sharp and focused. Anger. Not the hot, explosive kind that made people scream and throw things. This was different. This was calculated. This was the same anger that had fueled her through every obstacle in building her company. The anger that kept her going when suppliers tried to cheat her because she was a woman. The anger that made her work twice as hard as any man in her industry just to be taken seriously. This was the anger that got results. Camille pulled out her laptop and started searching. She found Heather's social media in less than 5 minutes. The profile was public, filled with photos of designer bags, expensive dinners and luxury vacations. In the most recent post, dated just hours ago, Heather stood next to a black Rolls-Royce Cullinan with a red bow, her caption reading, "When he really loves you, he shows it. Some women get flowers. I get luxury." The comments below were full of heart emojis and jealous friends asking who her mysterious man was. Heather had responded to one. A successful businessman who knows how to treat a real woman. Unlike some wives, I actually appreciate him. Camille read every post, clicked through every photo, memorized every detail. Heather worked as a sales associate at a high-end boutique downtown. She was 28, 11 years younger than Camille. She liked expensive brunches, designer shoes, and taking selfies in luxury cars. She thought Derek was rich. She had no idea what was coming. Camille opened a new document on her laptop and started typing. She listed every withdrawal from their joint account. Every suspicious purchase. Every lie Derek had told. Then she opened her email and sent a message to her lawyer, asking for an urgent meeting first thing tomorrow morning. Her phone buzzed again. "Derek, don't wait up. This dinner is running really late. Love you, babe." Camille looked at the message for a long moment. Then she replied, "No problem. Take your time." She meant it. He could take all the time he wanted with Heather. Because Camille was done being the wife who worked herself to death while her husband stole from her. She was done being mocked by women who didn't even know her name. She was done pretending everything was fine. The humiliation she felt tonight, standing in that parking garage listening to Heather's cruel laughter, would be the last time Derek made her feel small. Tomorrow she would start taking back everything that was hers. And Derek and his mistress were about to learn a very expensive lesson about who really owned Sterling Automotive Solutions. Camille didn't sleep that night. Instead, she sat at her home office desk with a cup of black coffee that went cold while she worked. The house stayed quiet except for the soft clicking of her keyboard and the occasional creak of the old wooden floors. Derek's text at midnight said he was staying at his friend's place because he had too much to drink at dinner. Another lie. She didn't bother responding. By sunrise, Camille had created a spreadsheet that made her stomach turn. 2 years of financial records laid out in neat rows and columns. The numbers told a story that was even worse than she thought. Derek had withdrawn $375,000 from their joint accounts over 24 months. That didn't include the charges on credit cards she had added him to, which pushed the total past $500,000. $500,000 of her money, spent on a woman who thought Derek was successful. Camille traced the pattern with growing disgust. It started small 2 years ago. 1,000 here, 1,500 there. Restaurant charges at places Camille had never been. Then it escalated. 5,000 for jewelry. 10,000 labeled as business expenses that had nothing to do with her company. 20,000 for a vacation to Miami that Derek had told her was a guy's trip with his college friends. She pulled up his social media, something she rarely checked because she was always too busy working. His privacy settings kept her from seeing much, but she created a fake account using a random name and photos pulled from a stock website. Within an hour she had sent him a friend request from this fake profile, and Derek, trusting, stupid Derek, had accepted it. His real social media was nothing like the account he showed her. While his main profile had pictures of them together, posts about his workouts, and boring updates about sports, this hidden side of his life was completely different. There were photos at expensive nightclubs with Heather hanging on his arm. Pictures at luxury hotels. Beach vacations where Heather wore designer swimwear and Derek looked tanned and relaxed. In one photo from 6 months ago they stood in front of the Eiffel Tower. Heather's caption read, "Paris with my love. He says we'll come back for our honeymoon someday." The post had 63 likes and comments from friends saying things like, "You two are perfect together," and "He better put a ring on it soon." Camille's hands clenched into fists. Paris. Derek had told her he couldn't go with her to a business conference in Los Angeles last year because he needed to stay home and handle some personal matters. Personal matters that apparently involved flying his mistress to France on Camille's money. She kept scrolling, each image another punch to her chest. Derek and Heather at a basketball game in courtside seats. Derek and Heather at a fancy steakhouse with a bottle of wine that probably cost more than most people's weekly salary. Derek and Heather on a yacht, both holding champagne glasses and smiling at the camera like they didn't have a care in the world. The comments on these posts made everything worse. Derek's friends, men Camille had met at barbecues and holiday parties, men who had shaken her hand and smiled at her, were commenting on these photos. "Looking good, bro? That's what I'm talking about. Living your best life." They all knew. Derek's entire friend group knew he had a mistress, and none of them had said a word to Camille. They had come to her house, eaten her food, and stayed silent while Derek made a fool of her. At 7 in the morning, Camille showered and dressed in her sharpest navy blue suit. She applied her makeup with careful precision, making sure she looked powerful and in control. By 8 she was sitting in her lawyer's office. Monica Bradford had been Camille's attorney for 8 years. She was a sharp woman in her 50s who had built her reputation destroying unfaithful spouses in divorce court. Her office walls were covered in degrees and awards, but the thing Camille appreciated most was the box of tissues on her desk that Monica never mentioned and never moved. "Tell me everything," Monica said, her pen already moving across a legal pad. Camille laid it all out. The overheard conversation in the parking garage. The financial records. The social media posts. The lies spanning 2 years. Monica listened without interrupting, her expression growing darker with each detail. "He's been committing financial fraud," Monica said when Camille finished. "Withdrawing money from business accounts for personal use without your consent as the sole owner. That's embezzlement. The personal withdrawals from joint accounts are different, but we can argue financial infidelity and demand full reimbursement in the divorce settlement." "I want more than reimbursement," Camille said, her voice steady. "I want him to understand exactly what he's done. I want him to lose everything just like he tried to take everything from me." Monica smiled, and it wasn't a kind expression. "Then we need to be strategic. Don't confront him yet. We need to document everything, move your assets to protected accounts, and remove his access to your business completely. Can you pretend things are normal for a few more days?" Camille thought about Heather's laugh echoing through the parking garage. She thought about Derek's text messages filled with lies. She thought about 2 years of betrayal while she worked herself to exhaustion. "I can pretend for as long as it takes," she said. The next week was the hardest of Camille's life. She went to work every day, smiled at meetings, made decisions about her company, and came home to have dinner with Derek like nothing had changed. He kissed her on the cheek and asked about her day. She responded with generic answers while her mind calculated every lie he told her. "How was your day?" she asked on Wednesday night, setting down plates of pasta she had forced herself to cook. "Long," Derek said, scrolling through his phone. "Had back-to-back meetings all afternoon. This new client is demanding, but the commission will be worth it." There was no new client. Camille knew because she had started tracking his location using the phone plan she paid for. Derek had spent his afternoon at Heather's apartment across town, leaving at 6 to make it home for dinner. "That sounds stressful," Camille said, taking a bite of pasta she couldn't taste. "You know how it is in sales," Derek continued. "Always hustling, always pushing for the next deal. Someone has to keep money coming in, right?" The casual cruelty of that statement almost broke her careful composure. Someone has to keep money coming in. As if Derek contributed anything. As if his fake sales job, a position at a company where he barely showed up and certainly never closed any significant deals, was supporting their lifestyle. As if Camille's 12-hour days building an empire meant nothing. "Right," she said softly, watching him shovel pasta into his mouth while texting someone under the table. "Probably Heather." Behind the scenes, Camille was moving like a chess master. She met with her accountant, a precise man named George who had managed her company finances since the beginning. Together, they created a new corporate structure that removed Derek's name from everything. "He was never actually on the ownership papers," George explained, adjusting his glasses. "You added him as an authorized user on some accounts, but he has no legal claim to the company itself. We just need to revoke that authorization." "Do it," Camille said. "All of it. Every account, every card, every access point." "What about the joint personal accounts?" George asked carefully. "Leave those for now," Camille said. "I want him to think everything is normal. But move my assets into new accounts in my name only. Protect everything I've worked for." George nodded and got to work. By Friday, Camille's business was a fortress. Derek's access had been quietly revoked from every system. He could no longer withdraw from company accounts, use company credit cards, or access any financial information. But because he rarely checked these things, why would he when money just appeared whenever he wanted it? He didn't notice anything had changed. Camille also hired a private investigator, a woman named Tasha who came highly recommended. "I need documentation of everything," Camille told her. "Photos, videos, timeline of his activities. Everything that will hold up in court." Tasha was thorough. Within 3 days she had produced a report that made Camille's anger burn even hotter. Derek and Heather had been on 4 vacations together in 2 years. They had a regular schedule. Derek would tell Camille he was working late or having guys' night, then spend the evening at Heather's apartment. On weekends when Camille was at work, he would take Heather shopping, buying her clothes and jewelry with credit cards attached to Camille's accounts. The investigator's report included photos of Derek and Heather having dinner at expensive restaurants, kissing in parking lots, and walking hand in hand through shopping districts. There were screenshots of text messages where Derek complained about Camille being boring and cold, where he promised Heather they would be together permanently soon, where he said his wife was just a business arrangement he was stuck with. One text message made Camille's blood run cold. "Once I convince her to add me as part owner of her company, I'll divorce her and take half of everything. Then we can finally be together for real. Just need to be patient a little longer." He had been planning to steal her company. The business she built from nothing. The dream she had sacrificed everything for. Derek had been plotting to trick her into giving him ownership, then divorcing her and taking half. Camille sat in her office that Friday afternoon, reading those words over and over. The betrayal went so much deeper than an affair. This was calculated. This was planned. Derek had never loved her. He had only ever loved what she could give him. Her phone rang. Derek calling to say he would be home late again. Another lie. Another night with Heather. "No problem," Camille said, her voice sweet. "Take your time." She hung up and opened her laptop. Monica had sent over the first draft of divorce papers. They were brutal and beautiful. Camille read through every page, making notes and suggestions. They would file in 2 weeks, once every asset was protected and every piece of evidence was documented. But before that, Camille had one more thing to do. She needed to know exactly what Derek had told Heather about the company. She needed to understand how deep his lies went. And she had the perfect opportunity coming up. Next week, Sterling Automotive Solutions was hosting its annual charity gala, a huge event where the company showcased its latest innovations and raised money for automotive education programs. It was Camille's favorite event of the year, something she planned for months. Derek always attended as her spouse, playing the role of supportive husband. This year would be different. This year, Camille was going to make sure certain people received invitations who never had before. She pulled up her contact list and started typing. It was time for Heather to see exactly who owned Sterling Automotive Solutions. And it was time for Derek's lies to come crashing down in the most public way possible. Monday morning started like any other. Camille arrived at Sterling Automotive Solutions at 6:30, 2 hours before most of her staff. She liked these quiet mornings when the building was empty, when she could walk through her company and remember why she started this journey. The lobby always impressed her, sleek modern design with her company logo prominently displayed on the wall behind the reception desk. This was hers. She had built this. Her office was on the top floor with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Camille stood there now with her coffee, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Her reflection in the glass showed a woman who looked calm and professional, but inside, her mind was working through every detail of her plan. The charity gala was in 10 days. She had already sent out most of the invitations weeks ago, but this morning she had a special list to complete. Camille pulled up her computer and opened the guest management system. She found Heather's name in the company database. Apparently Derek had added her as a contact at some point, probably planning to invite her to events eventually. The email address was there. The phone number too. Camille created an invitation and hit send. You are cordially invited to Sterling Automotive Solutions Annual Charity Gala. Black tie event. Please RSVP. The invitation didn't mention who was sending it. It just came from the company's general events email. Heather would probably think Derek had arranged it, another sign of his supposed power and influence. She would show up expecting to be treated like royalty, the girlfriend of an important man. That thought made Camille smile for the first time in days. Her phone buzzed. A text from Derek. Morning babe. Left early for a breakfast meeting. See you tonight. There was no breakfast meeting. Tasha the investigator had already sent Camille an update. Derek was at Heather's apartment. He had been there since last night despite telling Camille he was working late. The lies just kept coming, each one making it easier for Camille to do what needed to be done. She spent the morning in meetings with her department heads, discussing production schedules and the new electric vehicle line they were developing. Sterling Automotive Solutions wasn't a car manufacturer. They designed and produced high-end automotive parts and systems that major manufacturers purchased for luxury vehicles. It was a specialized market that Camille had broken into through pure determination and innovation. The European contracts are looking solid, her sales director reported. We should have final signatures by month's end. That's $12 million in revenue for next quarter. Camille nodded, making notes. $12 million in revenue that Derek knew nothing about. He thought he understood her business, but he had never bothered to actually learn what she did. To him, Sterling Automotive Solutions was just a source of money he could steal from. After the meeting, Camille called Monica. I invited the mistress to the charity gala, Camille said. There was a pause on the other end. Then Monica laughed, sharp and approving. You're vicious. I love it. But are you sure you want to confront them publicly? I'm not confronting anyone, Camille said. I'm just letting Heather see reality. Let her walk into my company, see my name on everything, and understand exactly who Derek really is. The humiliation will be natural. And Derek? Derek won't know she's coming. That's the beautiful part. He'll show up expecting to play the role of supportive husband, and his mistress will be there watching. Let him try to lie his way out of that. What about after the gala? Monica asked. After the gala we file. I want the divorce papers served to him the next morning, when he's still trying to figure out what happened. By then, Heather will know the truth and Derek will have nothing left to stand on. And the financial claims? That's where it gets interesting, Camille said, pulling up the documents George had prepared. I've documented every fraudulent withdrawal. Every personal expense charged to business accounts. I'm not just divorcing him, Monica. I'm suing him for embezzlement and demanding full restitution plus damages. You wanted half my company? He's going to end up owing me everything he has. Monica was quiet for a moment. This is going to be brutal, Camille. Are you ready for that? Camille thought about standing in that parking garage, listening to Heather mock her. She thought about Derek's text messages planning to steal her company. She thought about 2 years of lies while she worked herself to exhaustion. I'm ready, she said. That evening, Camille came home to find Derek on the couch watching television. He looked relaxed, comfortable, like a man without a care in the world. He smiled when she walked in. Hey babe. How was work? Busy, Camille said, setting down her bag. The gala is next week. Are you ready for it? Derek made a face. Those things are so boring. Do I have to go? Every year, Derek complained about the charity gala. Every year, Camille had to convince him to attend her most important event. And every year he showed up and acted charming while secretly resenting every minute. But this year was different. This year, Camille needed him there. Yes, you have to go, Camille said firmly. It's important for the company. And it's important to me. Derek sighed dramatically. Fine. But you owe me for sitting through another one of your work events. The casual disrespect in his tone made Camille's jaw tighten, but she kept her expression neutral. I'll make it worth your while, she said, the words tasting like ash in her mouth. Derek seemed satisfied with that and went back to his show. Camille went upstairs to change, closing the bedroom door before letting out a slow breath. She could do this. She just had to maintain the act for 10 more days. Over the next week, Camille threw herself into final preparations for the gala. She met with caterers, approved flower arrangements, and confirmed that every detail was perfect. The event would be held at a luxury hotel downtown, with 300 guests including business partners, city officials, and major clients. It was Sterling Automotive Solutions' biggest night of the year, the event where Camille showcased everything her company had accomplished. This year, it would also be the night Derek's lies exploded in his face. Tasha continued sending investigator reports. Derek and Heather had been spending even more time together, perhaps sensing their opportunity was coming. Derek had apparently told Heather that after the gala, he was going to push Camille to make him a partner in the company. Heather was excited, already planning how they would celebrate once Derek finally got what he deserved from his marriage. The texts between them were nauseating. Derek complained constantly about Camille. She was too focused on work, she wasn't fun, she didn't appreciate him. Heather responded with sympathy and suggestions of things they could do once Derek was free and rich from the divorce settlement he expected. Neither of them had any idea what was really coming. 3 days before the gala, Camille received an RSVP notification. Heather had confirmed her attendance, adding a +1. She was bringing a friend, someone to witness her grand entrance into Derek's supposed world. The friend was probably the same woman from the parking garage, the one Heather had been on the phone with that terrible night. Perfect. The more people who witnessed this, the better. Camille also made one final business move that week. She met with her company's head of security, a former police officer named Jerome who took his job seriously. I need you to do something for me at the gala, Camille said, handing him a photo of Derek and Heather together. This man is my husband. This woman is his mistress. She'll be at the event as a regular guest, but he doesn't know she's coming. When things get complicated, I need you to make sure there's no scene. Escort anyone out quietly if necessary. Jerome studied the photo, his expression carefully neutral. You want me to remove your husband from the gala? Only if he causes a problem, Camille said. I'm hoping he'll leave on his own once he realizes what's happening. But I need to know you'll handle it if things get messy. Understood, Jerome said. Anything else? Yes. I want video footage of everything. Every entrance, every interaction, every moment. Can you make that happen? We always record the gala for security purposes, Jerome said. But I can make sure we have extra coverage this year. Camille thanked him and left the security office feeling more prepared. Every piece was falling into place. All she had to do now was wait. At home that night, Derek was in a good mood. He had just gotten off the phone with someone, probably Heather, and was smiling at his phone like a fool. What's got you so happy? Camille asked, even though she knew exactly what. Nothing, Derek said quickly. Just thinking about the future. Good things coming, you know? He had no idea how right he was. Good things were coming, just not for him. The night before the gala, Camille couldn't sleep. She lay in bed next to Derek, listening to him snore, and thought about everything that had led to this moment. She had loved this man once, trusted him, built a life with him, and he had betrayed her in ways she was still discovering. Tomorrow night, it would all come to an end. Tomorrow night, Derek and Heather would finally understand who they had been messing with. Tomorrow night, Camille would stop being the woman who got mocked in parking garages and become the woman who took back her power. She reached for her phone and opened her photos, looking at the picture she had taken of herself earlier that day. She was wearing the dress she had chosen for the gala, a stunning floor-length gown that made her look like royalty. It was elegant and powerful, the kind of dress that commanded attention. Tomorrow night, everyone would be paying attention to her. And Derek and Heather were going to wish they had never crossed Camille Sterling. The game was about to begin and Camille held all the cards. Friday morning arrived with clear skies and bright sunshine. Camille woke up at 5, too anxious to sleep anymore. Tonight was the gala. Tonight everything would change. But before that, she had one more crucial piece of business to handle. She slipped out of bed quietly, leaving Derek still asleep. In her home office, she pulled up her laptop and reviewed the documents one final time. George had prepared everything perfectly. New corporate structure, new account access, new security protocols. Sterling Automotive Solutions was now completely protected from Derek's reach. But there was one last detail Camille wanted to handle personally. At 7 she was already at her office. The building was quiet this early, just security guards and a few dedicated employees who arrived before dawn. Camille rode the elevator to the top floor and walked past the executive offices until she reached the door marked Director of Operations. Derek's office. Except it wasn't really Derek's office. It was a courtesy space Camille had given him 3 years ago when he complained about not having anywhere to work. He barely used it, showing up maybe once a week to make phone calls and use the free coffee. But the nameplate on the door said, Derek Morrison, Director of Operations, a title that meant nothing and came with no actual responsibilities. Today that nameplate was coming down. Camille called Jerome from security. I need you to remove some items from this office and change the locks. Today before the gala. Jerome arrived with 2 maintenance workers. They started with the nameplate, unscrewing it from the door. Camille watched it come down with satisfaction. That fake title had let Derek pretend he was important, had given him credibility when he lied to Heather about his position in the company. Inside the office there wasn't much personal stuff. A few sports magazines. Some protein bars. A framed photo of Derek at a college football game. Everything went into a box. What should we do with it? Jerome asked. Storage for now, Camille said. He can collect it later if he wants it. The maintenance crew changed the locks and removed Derek's access card from the system. His keycard would no longer open any doors in this building. His login credentials for the company computer system were already disabled. George had handled that yesterday. By 8 in the morning, Derek Morrison no longer existed at Sterling Automotive Solutions. Camille returned to her office and started her normal workday, attending meetings and reviewing reports. Around 10 her assistant knocked on the door. There's someone here to see you, she said. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's important. Her name is Heather Preston. Camille's heart skipped. Heather was here? At the company? The gala wasn't until tonight. What was she doing showing up now? Send her in, Camille said calmly, even though her pulse was racing. A minute later Heather walked into her office. She was younger than Camille expected. Maybe late 20s with long blonde hair styled in perfect waves. She wore an expensive designer outfit, probably purchased with money Derek had stolen, and carried a handbag that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Heather looked around the office with obvious approval, taking in the expensive furniture, the view, the awards on the walls. She didn't recognize Camille. She had no idea who she was talking to. Can I help you? Camille asked, keeping her voice professional and neutral. I'm looking for Derek Morrison, Heather said with a bright smile. He works here, but the receptionist said his office was closed. Something about moving offices? She said I should talk to you since you're the CEO. This was too perfect. Camille leaned back in her chair and studied the woman who had been sleeping with her husband for 2 years. Derek Morrison, Camille said slowly. What's your relationship with him? Heather's smile widened. I'm his girlfriend. Well, almost more than that, really. We've been together for a while now. He told me I should come by sometime and see where he works. I was in the area, so I thought I'd surprise him. I see, Camille said. And what did Derek tell you about his position here? He's the Director of Operations, Heather said proudly. Very important position. He helps run this whole company. He's been telling me about some big changes coming soon, actually. He might be getting promoted to partner. Every word felt like a slap, but Camille kept her expression neutral. Partner. That's interesting. Between you and me, Heather said, leaning forward like they were sharing secrets. Derek says the current owner is his wife, but she's really just a figurehead. Derek does all the real work. He's planning to buy her out soon and take full control. That's why I'm trying to be supportive, you know? Behind every successful man is a supportive woman. The audacity was breathtaking. Camille felt a cold fury settle in her chest, but she kept her voice level. Let me make sure I understand, Camille said. Derek told you he runs this company and that he's planning to buy out the owner? Exactly. Heather looked pleased that someone understood. His wife is nice, I guess, but she doesn't really get the business side of things. Derek says she got lucky early on, but now he has to fix all her mistakes. Once he takes over, he's promised we can finally be together openly. I'm actually really excited about it. Camille stood up and walked to the window, needing a moment to control her reaction. She looked down at the parking lot below, where she could see the black Rolls-Royce Cullinan that Derek had bought for this woman with stolen money. That's your car down there? Camille asked, pointing. The Rolls-Royce. Heather joined her at the window, beaming. Yes. Derek got it for me last week. Early birthday present. Isn't it gorgeous? He said a woman like me deserves to drive something special. A woman like you, Camille repeated softly. Someone who appreciates him, Heather said. Someone who doesn't just see him as a wallet or a convenience. We have a real connection, you know? Not like his marriage, which is basically just a business arrangement at this point. Camille turned to face her. I have some difficult news for you, Heather. Derek Morrison doesn't work here anymore. His office has been closed, and his position has been terminated. Heather's smile faltered. What? That can't be right. Derek would have told me. When was the last time you spoke to him about his work here? Yesterday, Heather said defensively. He was talking about meetings and contracts and all kinds of business stuff. Then Derek was lying to you, Camille said bluntly. There are no meetings. There are no contracts. Derek Morrison has never had any real authority in this company. The courtesy title he was given has been revoked, and he no longer has access to this building or any company resources. Heather's face went pale. You can't do that, Derek said. Derek said a lot of things that aren't true, Camille interrupted. Including whatever he told you about buying out the owner. That's never going to happen because the owner of Sterling Automotive Solutions is not interested in selling. Not to Derek, not to anyone. Well, maybe you don't know what you're talking about, Heather snapped, her friendly tone disappearing. Derek told me the owner is his wife, some woman named Camille. Maybe I should talk to her instead. Camille walked back to her desk and picked up one of her business cards. She handed it to Heather and watched the color drain from her face as she read it. Camille Sterling, founder and CEO, Sterling Automotive Solutions. Heather stared at the card, then at Camille, then back at the card. Her mouth opened and closed without sound. That's right, Camille said quietly. I'm the wife. I'm the owner. And every dollar Derek spent on you, the car, the clothes, the jewelry, the vacations, all of it was stolen from me. From my company. From my accounts. No, Heather whispered. Derek said. Derek is a liar, Camille said flatly. He has no money. He has no power. He has no position here. Everything he told you was fiction designed to impress you. And everything he gave you was bought with money he embezzled from me. Heather backed toward the door, still clutching the business card. This is crazy. Derek loves me. He's leaving you. He told me. He told you whatever would keep you interested, Camille said. But the reality is that Derek is a fraud. And you, Heather, have been driving around in a car purchased with stolen funds. That makes you an accessory to his crimes. I didn't know. Heather's voice rose. I thought. You thought you were special, Camille said. You thought you had landed a rich, successful man who would take care of you. But you were wrong. And now you're going to face the consequences along with Derek. Heather turned and practically ran from the office. Camille watched her go, feeling a grim satisfaction. That hadn't been part of the plan, but it worked even better than the gala surprise would have. Heather now knew the truth, and she had hours to panic before tonight's event. Camille sat down at her desk and called Monica. Small change of plans, she said. Heather just showed up at my office looking for Derek. She knows everything now. How did she take it? Monica asked. About as well as you'd expect. Lots of denial. But the truth is sinking in. What about Derek? Does he know she was there? Camille checked her phone. No messages. Not yet. This is going to be interesting. What do you want to do about tonight? Everything proceeds as planned, Camille said firmly. Let Heather decide if she still wants to come to the gala knowing what she knows. Let Derek show up expecting a normal evening. I want to see how they both handle the pressure. After hanging up, Camille tried to focus on work, but her mind kept drifting to Heather's shocked face when she realized who Camille was. The woman had walked into this office so confident, so sure of her place in Derek's life. And in 5 minutes, Camille had destroyed that confidence completely. Felt good. It felt like power. Around 3 in the afternoon, Camille's phone buzzed. Derek calling. She let it ring 4 times before answering. Hey, she said. Hey, babe. Derek's voice sounded strained. Have you been at the office all day? Of course. Why? No reason. Just checking in. We're still going to the gala tonight, right? Yes. Why would that change? It wouldn't, Derek said quickly. I just wanted to make sure. What time should I meet you? The event starts at 7. I'll be there early to oversee setup. You can come whenever you're ready. Okay, sounds good. See you tonight. He hung up abruptly. Camille smiled. Heather had definitely told him about her visit. Derek was panicking, trying to figure out what Camille knew and what she didn't. He was probably scrambling to come up with explanations, preparing lies to cover his lies. It wouldn't matter. Tonight, at the gala, everything would become crystal clear. Camille spent the rest of the afternoon preparing. She left the office at 5 to go home and get ready. The dress she had chosen was perfect, a deep emerald green that complemented her skin tone beautifully. She styled her hair in an elegant updo and applied her makeup carefully. When she looked in the mirror, she saw a woman who looked like she owned the room. Because she did. Derek wasn't home when she left. He had texted saying he was getting ready at a friend's place to save time. Another lie. He was probably with Heather, trying to convince her that everything was fine, that Camille didn't know anything important. They would both learn differently tonight. Camille arrived at the hotel at 6. The ballroom was already transformed into an elegant showcase of her company's success. Silver and white decorations created a sophisticated atmosphere. Tables were arranged perfectly, each with centerpieces featuring small automotive parts turned into art pieces. The stage at the front of the room had a massive screen displaying the Sterling Automotive Solutions logo. Everything was perfect. Everything was ready. At 6:45, guests started arriving. Business partners in tuxedos with their spouses in evening gowns. City officials and local celebrities. Important clients and company employees. Everyone who mattered in Camille's professional world was here to celebrate her success. At 7:15, Derek arrived. He was wearing his tuxedo and looking nervous. His eyes scanned the room constantly, like he was searching for someone or expecting trouble. He found Camille near the bar and approached with a forced smile. "You look beautiful," he said, kissing her cheek. "Thank you," Camille said coolly. "Enjoy the evening." She walked away before he could say anything else, leaving him standing there looking confused. Let him wonder. Let him worry. At 7:30, Heather arrived. She was wearing a red dress that was too flashy for the elegant atmosphere. Her friend was with her, a woman in an equally inappropriate outfit. They stood in the entrance looking around with wide eyes, clearly overwhelmed by the scale and sophistication of the event. Then Heather spotted Derek across the room, standing with a group of Camille's business partners. She started walking toward him. Camille watched from a distance, waiting for the moment Derek realized his mistress was at his wife's gala. It took 30 seconds. Derek turned, saw Heather approaching, and his face went absolutely white. He looked around frantically, spotted Camille watching him, and froze. The evening was about to get very interesting. The ballroom fell into a strange kind of silence when Heather walked up to Derek. Conversations didn't stop exactly, but they shifted. People sensed drama the way they might notice a sudden drop in temperature. Camille watched from her position near the stage, a glass of champagne in her hand, as Derek's worst nightmare unfolded. "Derek." Heather's voice carried across the room, bright and cheerful and completely unaware of the social disaster she was creating. "I didn't know you'd be here. What a coincidence." Derek stood frozen between Heather and the group of business executives he had been talking to. His face had gone from white to red, sweat appearing on his forehead despite the cool air conditioning. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. One of the executives, a man named Harold who had partnered with Sterling Automotive for years, raised an eyebrow. "Friend of yours, Derek?" We. Derek stammered, looking desperately toward Camille. Camille stayed exactly where she was, sipping her champagne, watching. Heather finally seemed to notice something was wrong. Her smile faltered as she looked between Derek and the executives. "Is everything okay? Who are you?" Harold asked directly. "I'm Heather," she said, regaining some confidence. "Derek's girlfriend." The word hung in the air like smoke. Several nearby conversations actually did stop this time. People turned to look. Derek looked like he wanted the floor to open up and swallow him. "Girlfriend," Harold repeated, his tone making it clear he understood exactly what was happening. He glanced at Derek with open disgust, then looked around until he found Camille. "My apologies, Camille. I didn't realize your evening was going to include this kind of entertainment." He walked away from Derek, heading straight toward Camille. Two other executives from the group followed him, leaving Derek standing alone with Heather. "That was uncomfortable," Harold said quietly when he reached Camille. "I'm sorry you had to deal with that." "Don't be," Camille said calmly. "I invited her." Harold's eyes widened. "You what?" "I wanted her to see the truth," Camille explained. "She's been under the impression that Derek is someone important. Tonight she gets to learn differently." A slow smile spread across Harold's face. "You're vicious. I respect that." Across the room, Heather was starting to understand that something was very wrong. She grabbed Derek's arm, pulling him toward a quiet corner. Camille couldn't hear what they were saying, but Derek's body language screamed panic. He kept shaking his head, gesturing wildly, looking around like he was trapped. Heather's friend joined them, and the three of them formed a tense huddle. More people were noticing now, whispering behind their hands, pointing. Camille's employees looked confused. Most of them had no idea Derek was married to their boss. They had seen him around occasionally but assumed he was just some associate. Jerome from security appeared at Camille's elbow. "Do you want me to escort them out?" "Not yet," Camille said. "Let them stay a little longer. I want to make sure the lesson sticks." The evening continued around the drama. Dinner was served and people found their seats. Camille sat at the head table with her key executives and board members. Derek sat at a table near the back, alone. Heather and her friend had taken seats at a different table, looking increasingly uncomfortable as they realized everyone was staring at them. Halfway through dinner, Camille stood up to give her speech. The lights dimmed and a spotlight focused on the stage. She walked up confidently, every eye in the room on her. The massive screen behind her displayed Sterling Automotive Solutions logo, then shifted to show photos from the company's history. "Good evening, everyone," Camille began, her voice clear and strong. "Thank you all for being here tonight to celebrate 12 years of Sterling Automotive Solutions." She clicked to the next slide, showing a photo from the company's beginning, a tiny garage workshop where she had built her first prototype. 12 years ago, I started this company with nothing but an idea and a determination to succeed. I worked 16-hour days in that garage, learning everything I could about automotive engineering, business management, and manufacturing. When suppliers wouldn't take me seriously, I found new suppliers. When banks wouldn't give me loans, I saved every penny until I could fund myself. The slides continued, showing the company's growth. From that tiny garage to a small warehouse. From 5 employees to 50. From local clients to national contracts. "This company exists because I refused to give up," Camille continued. "Because I believed in my vision even when no one else did. Because I was willing to sacrifice everything to make it real." She paused, letting the weight of those words settle. In the audience, Derek had gone very still. Heather was whispering urgently to her friend. "Many people have tried to take credit for Sterling Automotive's success over the years," Camille said, her tone hardening slightly. "People who did none of the work but wanted all of the glory. People who saw my company as something they could exploit for their own benefit." The room was completely silent now. Everyone could feel the shift in Camille's tone. "But the truth is simple," she said firmly. "Sterling Automotive Solutions was built by me, is owned by me, and will always be mine alone. No one else has any claim to this company. No one else has contributed to its success in any meaningful way. And no one else deserves recognition for what I have accomplished." She clicked to a slide showing the company's current worth, a number that made several people gasp. $250 million in annual revenue. Offices in 4 states. Over 800 employees. International contracts with major automotive manufacturers worldwide. "This is what hard work looks like," Camille said. "This is what happens when you refuse to let other people steal your dreams. This is the result of 12 years of dedication, sacrifice, and unwavering focus." She clicked to the final slide, which showed her standing in front of the company headquarters, her name prominently displayed on the building. "I am Sterling Automotive Solutions," she said. "And I always have been." The applause that followed was thunderous. People stood up, clapping and cheering. Camille's employees looked proud. Her business partners looked impressed. Her investors looked satisfied. Derek looked destroyed. Heather looked like she finally understood what she had walked into. Camille descended from the stage and returned to her table, accepting congratulations from everyone around her. She didn't look at Derek. She didn't acknowledge Heather. She simply continued with her evening as if they didn't exist. During the dessert course, Heather stood up abruptly and rushed toward the exit. Her friend hurried after her, looking embarrassed. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Camille could see them in the hotel lobby, Heather crying while her friend tried to comfort her. Derek stayed in his seat, staring at his untouched plate. No one approached him. No one wanted to be associated with the man who had tried to steal credit from Camille Sterling. Around 9, the gala began winding down. People started saying their goodbyes, thanking Camille for a wonderful evening. She smiled and accepted their praise, playing the role of gracious host perfectly. Harold approached her one last time before leaving. "That was quite a statement you made tonight. Should we expect any other changes at Sterling Automotive?" "Several," Camille said. I'll be sending out announcements next week about new corporate structure and personnel changes. Derek Morrison will no longer be associated with the company in any capacity. Good, Harold said bluntly. He was always a leech. We all knew it. I'm glad you're finally cutting him loose. After Harold left, Jerome appeared again. The mistress left about 20 minutes ago. She was crying. Derek is still here sitting alone. What do you want me to do? Nothing, Camille said. Let him sit there. Let him feel the weight of what he's lost. By 10 o'clock, the ballroom had mostly cleared out. A few stragglers remained, chatting near the bar. Camille stood near the stage, watching the staff begin cleanup. And Derek finally approached her. He looked terrible. His eyes were red. His tuxedo was rumpled. He moved slowly, like every step required tremendous effort. Camille, he said quietly. Can we talk? We can talk right here, Camille said, not moving. Derek glanced around at the remaining guests and staff. Please. Not here. Can we go somewhere private? Why would I do that? Because we're married, Derek said desperately. Because we need to discuss this. There's nothing to discuss, Camille said calmly. You betrayed me. You stole from me. You tried to ruin me. What exactly do you think we need to talk about? I can explain. Don't bother. I heard you explaining to Heather that you run my company. I heard you explaining to your friends that I'm just lucky and you're the real talent. I heard you explaining to Heather that you planned to steal my company and divorce me. Derek's face went white again. How did you? I know everything, Derek. Every lie you told. Every dollar you stole. Every moment you spent with her while I worked to build something real. I know all of it. I'm sorry, Derek whispered. I made mistakes. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can. No, Camille interrupted firmly. We can't fix anything because there's nothing left to fix. You killed this marriage when you decided to betray me. You destroyed any chance of reconciliation when you stole from me. And you eliminated any possibility of forgiveness when you tried to take my company. Please, Derek begged. I love you. You love my money, Camille corrected. You love the lifestyle I provided. You love being able to pretend you're successful. But you never loved me. If you had, you wouldn't have done any of this. Derek grabbed her arm. Camille, please. Jerome was there instantly, pulling Derek's hand away from Camille. That's enough. Time for you to leave. She's my wife. Derek shouted, drawing attention from everyone still in the ballroom. Not for long, Camille said coldly. You'll be served divorce papers tomorrow morning. They detail every crime you committed, every dollar you stole, and every lie you told. My lawyers will be pursuing both divorce and criminal embezzlement charges. I'm going to take you for everything you have, Derek. And when I'm done, you'll have nothing left except the memory of how badly you messed up. Derek stared at her, tears streaming down his face. You can't do this. I already have, Camille said. Now get out of my event. Get out of my company. And get out of my life. Jerome and another security guard escorted Derek out of the ballroom. He went without further resistance, his shoulders slumped in defeat. Camille watched him go without a trace of sympathy. When the doors closed behind him, she let out a slow breath. It was done. The performance was over. Derek knew the truth. Heather knew the truth. Everyone who mattered knew the truth. Camille Sterling had taken back her power. And she was never giving it away again. Saturday morning arrived too early. Camille had barely slept, her mind replaying every moment of the gala. But she was awake at 5 anyway, energized despite her exhaustion. Today was the day everything became official. Today Derek would be served divorce papers. Today the legal battle began. She made coffee and sat in her home office, still wearing her pajamas, watching the sun rise through the window. The house was quiet. Derek hadn't come home last night. She didn't know where he had gone and didn't care. At 8 in the morning, Monica called. The process server is on his way to the address you provided. Should arrive around 9. Perfect, Camille said. What about the embezzlement charges? Filed with the district attorney's office yesterday afternoon. They're reviewing the evidence now. Given the amount involved and the clear documentation, they'll likely move forward with criminal charges. Criminal charges. Derek wouldn't just be divorced and broke. He would have a criminal record. The thought should have made Camille feel guilty, but it didn't. Derek had stolen over $500,000 from her. He deserved every consequence coming his way. What about Heather? Camille asked. The cease and desist letter was delivered this morning, Monica said. She has 72 hours to return the Rolls-Royce and all other items purchased with your funds. If she refuses, we'll pursue civil action. She'll return everything, Camille predicted. She knows she doesn't have a choice. After hanging up with Monica, Camille spent the morning catching up on emails and work reports. Normally, she would be at the office on Saturday, but today she wanted to be home when Derek finally showed up. She wanted to see his face when he realized he had lost everything. At 6, Derek's phone must have run out of battery or he gave up, because he started his car and drove away. Camille watched the taillights disappear and felt nothing. Sunday was quieter. Camille spent the day at home, deliberately not checking her phone or thinking about Derek. She read a book, watched television, and took a long bath. Self-care, her therapist would have called it. Camille called it survival. Monday morning brought new developments. Monica called with news. Derek's lawyer contacted me. They want to negotiate. Negotiate what? Camille asked. Everything. The settlement amount. The criminal charges. They're offering full repayment over time if you'll drop the embezzlement case. Tell them no, Camille said immediately. Full repayment now, not over time. And I'm not dropping the criminal charges. He doesn't have that kind of money, Camille. His lawyer made that very clear. Then he can sell everything he owns. His car, his clothes, his watch collection. Everything. I don't care how he gets the money. He stole from me and I want it back. Monica was quiet for a moment. This is going to destroy him completely. You understand that, right? He'll be bankrupt and potentially facing jail time. Good, Camille said firmly. He tried to destroy me. Turnabout is fair play. Tuesday brought more news. The district attorney's office had officially filed criminal charges against Derek for embezzlement. He would have to appear in court within 30 days. The news made local headlines. Local man charged with embezzling from wife's successful company. Camille's phone started ringing with calls from reporters wanting comments. She ignored all of them. This wasn't about publicity. This was about justice. But the news had other effects. Derek's friends started distancing themselves from him. The men who had covered for his affair, who had congratulated him on his lifestyle, suddenly wanted nothing to do with him. He was toxic now, a criminal, someone who couldn't be trusted. Wednesday, Camille received a call from an unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. Camille? It was Heather, her voice small and scared. Please don't hang up. I should, Camille said. But I'll give you 2 minutes. I returned the car, Heather said quickly. And the jewelry. And the designer bags. Everything Derek gave me. It's all gone. I even quit my job because I can't afford to live here anymore without his money. Good, Camille said coldly. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry, Heather continued. I didn't know he was stealing from you. I thought he was just rich. I thought he actually cared about me. But he lied to both of you, didn't he? Don't compare our situations, Camille said sharply. Derek didn't lie to you the way he lied to me. You were his mistress. I was his wife. We are not the same. I know, Heather whispered. I wanted to say I'm sorry. For what I said that night in the parking garage. I didn't know who you were. Yes, you did, Camille corrected. You knew I was Derek's wife. You just didn't care. You mocked me without knowing anything about me or my life. You laughed about stealing another woman's husband. Don't call me now looking for sympathy because your situation fell apart. She hung up and blocked that number too. Thursday, Derek's lawyer made another attempt to negotiate. This time, they offered 75% repayment and community service in exchange for dropping the criminal charges. Still no, Camille told Monica. He pays back 100% and the criminal case proceeds. No negotiation. His lawyer says he's planning to declare bankruptcy. Then he'll be bankrupt with a criminal record, Camille said. That's his choice. Friday evening, exactly 1 week after the gala, Camille received a final message from Derek. It came from a number she didn't recognize, so it got through before she could block it. You won. I've lost everything. My friends are gone. Heather won't talk to me. I'm probably going to jail. I have no money and no job. You destroyed my entire life. I hope you're happy. Camille read the message 3 times. Then she typed a response. You destroyed your own life when you decided to betray me. All I did was stop pretending I didn't notice. Good luck, Derek. You're going to need it. She sent the message, blocked the number, and deleted the entire conversation. That was the last communication she would ever have with Derek Morrison. It was finally over. The unraveling was complete. Derek had lost everything: his marriage, his access to money, his reputation, his freedom. He was facing criminal charges and bankruptcy. His mistress had abandoned him. His friends had turned their backs. And Camille? Camille had her company, her integrity, and her self-respect. She had taken back her power and refused to be a victim. The unraveling hadn't just been Derek's destruction. It had been Camille's liberation. 2 weeks after the gala, Sterling Automotive Solutions held its quarterly board meeting. Camille had scheduled it deliberately, knowing that the board members would want answers about the situation with Derek. She planned to give them those answers in a way that left no room for doubt about who controlled this company. The conference room on the top floor was designed to impress. A long mahogany table surrounded by leather chairs. Floor-to-ceiling windows offering views of the city. And at the head of the table, Camille's chair sat slightly elevated, a subtle but clear indicator of hierarchy. The board members arrived promptly at 9. These were serious people. Investors who had backed Sterling Automotive during its expansion, industry experts who advised on strategy, and the 3 senior executives who ran major departments. All of them had heard rumors about Derek. All of them wanted the truth. Camille let them settle into their seats before beginning. She stood at the head of the table, commanding the room with her presence. "Thank you all for being here," she said. "I know there's been a lot of speculation about recent events, so I want to address everything directly." She clicked a button, and the screen behind her lit up with a presentation title, Corporate Restructuring and Future Vision. 2 weeks ago, I discovered that Derek Morrison had been systematically embezzling funds from both my personal accounts and company resources, Camille stated bluntly. Over a 2-year period, he stole more than $500,000 to fund an affair and maintain a lifestyle far beyond his means. Shocked murmurs ran around the table. Even though they had heard rumors, hearing the actual numbers made it real. "I have filed for divorce and pressed criminal charges," Camille continued. "The district attorney is pursuing embezzlement charges, and I am seeking full restitution through civil court. Derek Morrison no longer has any connection to Sterling Automotive Solutions and will never be associated with this company again." One board member, an investor named Patricia, raised her hand. "Was he ever actually involved in company operations?" "No," Camille said firmly. "Derek Morrison held a courtesy title with no actual responsibilities. He was given access to certain resources as my spouse, access he abused for personal gain. But he never contributed to this company's success in any meaningful way." Another board member spoke up, an industry veteran named Thomas. "Some of us were under the impression that Derek played a role in business development." "That impression was false," Camille said. "Derek deliberately misrepresented his position to people outside this company. He took credit for deals he had nothing to do with. He claimed expertise he didn't possess. He used his connection to me to fraudulently present himself as someone important." She clicked to the next slide, showing Sterling Automotive's actual organizational chart. Derek's name appeared nowhere on it. "This is the reality of our corporate structure," Camille said. "As you can see, I am the sole owner and CEO. Our 3 division heads report directly to me. Every major decision, every successful contract, every innovation that has made this company successful, all of it happened without Derek Morrison's involvement." Patricia nodded approvingly. "I always suspected as much. I'm glad you're making it official." Camille moved to the next slide, showing financial projections. "With Derek's access revoked and my personal finances secured, Sterling Automotive is positioned for unprecedented growth. The European expansion is moving forward. Our new electric vehicle component line is generating significant interest. And we have 3 potential acquisitions under consideration that will strengthen our market position." The mood in the room shifted from concern to excited. This was what the board wanted to hear. Not drama about a failed marriage, but vision for the company's future. For the next hour, Camille walked them through detailed plans for expansion. New facilities in 2 states. Partnerships with 3 major automotive manufacturers. Research and development investments that would position Sterling Automotive at the forefront of industry innovation. Without the drain on resources that Derek represented, Camille concluded, we can finally operate at full potential. The future of Sterling Automotive has never been brighter. The board voted unanimously to approve her expansion plans. They also voted to formally remove any references to Derek from company materials and to release a public statement clarifying that he had never held any actual position of authority. After the meeting ended and the board members left, Patricia lingered behind. "That was masterfully done," Patricia said. "You turned a potential scandal into a demonstration of strength." I learned a long time ago that controlling the narrative matters, Camille replied. Derek tried to make himself seem important. I'm simply correcting the record. What happens next? With the criminal case? That's out of my hands, Camille said. But my lawyers are confident. The evidence is overwhelming. Patricia nodded. Good. Men like Derek need to face consequences. Otherwise, they'll keep doing this to other women. After Patricia left, Camille stood alone in the conference room looking out at the city. She had just reclaimed her company's narrative. No one would ever again think Derek Morrison had contributed anything to Sterling Automotive's success. That afternoon, the company's public relations team released the statement the board had approved. Sterling Automotive Solutions wishes to clarify that Derek Morrison has never held any operational role within the company. Mr. Morrison had no involvement in business development, strategic planning, or day-to-day operations. The company was founded, built, and continues to be led solely by CEO Camille Sterling. Mr. Morrison is no longer affiliated with Sterling Automotive Solutions in any capacity. The statement was brief, professional, and devastating. It appeared on the company website, was sent to all business partners, and was picked up by industry publications. By evening, Camille's phone was buzzing with messages of support from colleagues and business associates. People she had worked with for years were reaching out to say they never believed Derek's claims anyway, that they always knew she was the real force behind Sterling Automotive. One message came from Harold, the executive from the gala. Saw the statement. Perfect response. You're handling this with impressive grace. Looking forward to our continued partnership. Camille appreciated the support, but she knew the truth. Half of these people probably had believed Derek's lies. They had probably thought he contributed something. But now that the truth was public, they were all rewriting their memories to seem more perceptive than they had been. It didn't matter. What mattered was that the record was now correct. Sterling Automotive Solutions belonged to Camille Sterling, and everyone knew it. Later that week, Camille gave an interview to an industry publication. The reporter asked carefully about Derek, clearly hoping for dramatic quotes. I prefer to focus on the company's future rather than past mistakes, Camille said diplomatically. Sterling Automotive has exciting developments ahead, and that's where my energy is directed. But surely the situation with your husband affected the company? The situation with my former husband revealed the importance of protecting what you build, Camille replied. It reinforced my commitment to maintaining complete control over my company and ensuring that credit goes where it's actually deserved. The reporter pressed further. Do you have advice for other women entrepreneurs dealing with similar situations? Camille considered the question carefully. Trust your instincts. Document everything. Don't let anyone take credit for your work. And remember that you don't owe anyone access to what you've built, not even family members. Your success is yours to protect. The interview was published the following week with the headline, Camille Sterling on Building an Empire and Protecting What's Yours. It focused primarily on Sterling Automotive's growth and future plans, with only a brief mention of Derek's fraud. Exactly what Camille wanted. The public reveal of Derek's lies had multiple effects. Some were expected, business partners reaffirming their respect for Camille, industry colleagues reaching out with support. Others were surprising. 3 different women contacted Camille privately to share their own stories of partners who had tried to take credit for their success or steal from their businesses. These women had stayed silent, afraid of the stigma of divorce or worried about appearing weak. Camille's public stance gave them courage to take action. You showed me it was possible to fight back, one woman wrote. I'm filing for divorce next week. Thank you for being brave enough to speak up. Camille responded to each message, offering what support she could. She hadn't intended to become any kind of symbol, but if her experience helped other women, that was worth something. The local business community also took notice. Camille was invited to speak at a women's entrepreneur conference. She was featured in a magazine article about successful business owners. She received an award from the Chamber of Commerce for her contributions to the city's economy. Each recognition was gratifying but also slightly awkward. Camille knew people were paying attention now because of the scandal, not purely because of her business success. She had been running Sterling Automotive successfully for 12 years, but only now, after her personal life exploded publicly, was she getting this level of attention. Still, she used every opportunity to redirect focus to her company and its achievements. Every speech she gave emphasized hard work, innovation, and refusing to let obstacles stop you. She never mentioned Derek by name after that first industry interview. 3 weeks after the gala, Derek's criminal trial date was set. Monica called with the details. 4 months from now. The prosecution is confident. They have all the documentation they need. What about the divorce? Camille asked, moving faster. We should have a court date within 6 weeks. Derek's lawyer is still trying to negotiate, but we're not budging on your terms. Good. What's Derek doing now? Last I heard he moved in with a friend. Lost his job. Apparently having criminal charges against you makes employers nervous. He's working part-time at a retail store, barely covering his lawyer's fees. The fall from grace was complete. Derek had gone from pretending to be a successful businessman to working retail and living on a friend's couch. All because he couldn't be satisfied with having a successful wife. He had to steal from her, cheat on her, and plot against her. Camille didn't feel sorry for him. She felt vindicated. The public reveal had done exactly what she intended. It had established the truth about Sterling Automotive Solutions. It had protected her reputation. And it had sent a clear message to anyone who might think about trying to take advantage of her in the future. Camille Sterling was not a woman to be messed with. And now everyone knew it. 6 weeks after the gala, Camille sat in a courtroom for her divorce hearing. The room was smaller than she expected, with plain walls and uncomfortable benches. She sat at one table with Monica, while Derek sat at another table with his lawyer, a tired-looking man named Gerald who had clearly taken this case out of desperation rather than confidence. Derek looked terrible. He had lost weight, his suit was wrinkled, and his eyes had dark circles under them. When he glanced at Camille, she saw no anger, just exhaustion. He looked like a man who had given up. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s named Judge Harrison, reviewed the case file with a disapproving expression. "This is quite a situation," Judge Harrison said, looking over her reading glasses at Derek. "Mr. Morrison, you're facing criminal embezzlement charges while simultaneously going through divorce proceedings. That's not a position I see often." "Yes, Your Honor," Derek said quietly. "Mrs. Sterling," the judge continued, turning to Camille. "You're seeking full dissolution of marriage, full restitution of funds totaling $547,000, and sole ownership of all marital assets. Is that correct?" "Yes, Your Honor," Camille said clearly. "The house, the vehicles, and all savings accounts are currently in my name alone. I'm requesting that remain unchanged. I'm also requesting Mr. Morrison be ordered to repay all funds he fraudulently withdrew from our accounts." Derek's lawyer spoke up. "Your Honor, my client doesn't have the means to repay that amount. He's currently unemployed and..." "Perhaps Mr. Morrison should have considered that before embezzling over $500,000, Judge Harrison interrupted drily. "Continue, Mrs. Sterling." Monica stood and presented documentation. Bank statements showing every withdrawal. Credit card statements showing purchases for Heather. Text messages where Derek bragged about his plans. Photos from social media showing the luxury lifestyle he had maintained using Camille's money. The judge reviewed each piece of evidence carefully. Her expression grew progressively darker. "Mr. Morrison," she said finally, "is any of this disputed? Did you or did you not withdraw these funds and spend them on an extramarital affair?" Derek looked at his lawyer, who shook his head slightly. There was no point denying what was clearly proven. "I did, Your Honor," Derek admitted. "And did you or did you not have authorization to use these funds for personal expenses unrelated to household needs?" I thought I could use the joint account," Derek tried. "For a Rolls-Royce?" Judge Harrison's tone was sharp. "For luxury vacations? For designer jewelry? You thought you had authorization for that?" Derek said nothing. Judge Harrison set down the papers and looked at both parties. "I'm going to be very clear about something. This court sees a lot of difficult divorces. People fall out of love. People grow apart. People make mistakes. But what I see here isn't just a failed marriage. This is systematic financial fraud perpetrated against a spouse who was working to support the family." She turned to Derek. "Mr. Morrison, you took advantage of your wife's success. You stole from her while she worked to build a business. You lied to her, cheated on her, and plotted to steal her company. And now you're sitting here asking this court for mercy because you can't afford to pay back what you stole." "Your Honor, Derek started. "I'm not finished," Judge Harrison interrupted. "Mrs. Sterling is entitled to every penny she's requesting, and frankly, she's being generous by not seeking additional damages. Here's what's going to happen." She began writing on her order sheet. "Divorce granted. All assets currently in Mrs. Sterling's name remain with her. Mr. Morrison, you are ordered to repay the full amount of $547,000 to Mrs. Sterling within 5 years, with interest. Payments of $10,000 per month will begin immediately. If you miss a single payment, the full amount becomes due immediately and your wages will be garnished. Derek's face went white. Your Honor, I can't. Then you shouldn't have spent the money, Judge Harrison said firmly. Furthermore, you are ordered to return any and all items still in your possession that were purchased with Mrs. Sterling's funds. This includes your vehicle, which I see from these records was purchased using her credit. You have 48 hours to surrender that vehicle. But I need it for work, Derek protested weakly. You should have thought of that before committing fraud, the judge said without sympathy. Mrs. Sterling, is there anything else? Just one thing, Your Honor, Monica said. We'd like the court to order Mr. Morrison to cease all contact with Mrs. Sterling except through attorneys. He's been attempting to contact her repeatedly, which constitutes harassment. Granted, Judge Harrison said immediately. Mr. Morrison, you are not to contact Mrs. Sterling directly for any reason. All communication goes through lawyers. Violation of this order will result in contempt charges. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor, Derek whispered. Judge Harrison signed the order and handed copies to both lawyers. This divorce is final. Court dismissed. As everyone stood to leave, Derek tried to approach Camille. Please, can we just? Jerome, who had accompanied Camille to court as security, stepped between them. No contact. Judge's orders. Derek backed away looking lost. Camille walked out of the courtroom without giving him a second glance. Outside the courthouse, Monica looked pleased. That went even better than expected. 5-year repayment timeline is generous, but the monthly payment amount will ensure he feels it. And getting your car back is a nice bonus. He won't be able to keep up with those payments, Camille predicted. Probably not, Monica agreed. Which means we can pursue garnishment and collection. Either way, you're getting your money back. 2 days later, Derek returned the BMW. He had someone drop it off at Camille's house with the keys in the mailbox. She never saw him. 3 weeks after the divorce hearing, the criminal trial for embezzlement began. Camille had to testify, describing how she discovered Derek's theft and documenting the financial impact on her business and personal life. The prosecutor was a sharp young woman named Andrea who presented the case efficiently. She laid out every withdrawal, every lie, every fraudulent expense. She showed the jury Derek's text messages where he bragged about stealing from Camille. She presented testimony from George the accountant about how Derek's actions had nearly compromised the company's financial stability. Derek's defense lawyer tried to argue that the money came from joint accounts, so Derek had a right to use it. The prosecutor destroyed that argument by showing the sheer amounts involved and the fraudulent nature of how Derek had accessed company resources. The trial lasted 3 days. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. Derek's sentencing was scheduled for 4 weeks later. The prosecution was seeking jail time plus restitution. Derek's lawyer was begging for probation and community service. Camille didn't attend the sentencing hearing. She had said everything she needed to say during the trial. Whatever happened to Derek now was between him and the justice system. Monica called her that afternoon with the results. 18 months in jail, suspended to 6 months with good behavior. 5 years probation. Court ordered restitution of $547,000, which runs concurrent with the divorce judgment. Basically, he got off light because this was his first offense. 6 months isn't light, Camille said. It's lighter than it could have been, Monica replied. But combined with the probation and the restitution order, he's going to be dealing with consequences for years. After Monica hung up, Camille sat quietly in her office, processing the information. Derek was going to jail. Not for long, but long enough to understand that actions have consequences. The legal strike had landed exactly as intended. That evening, Camille received an unexpected call from Patricia, the board member who had supported her throughout the divorce. I heard about the sentencing, Patricia said. How are you doing? I'm fine, Camille said honestly. This needed to happen. It did, Patricia agreed. But that doesn't mean it's easy. Even when you're doing the right thing, it can be emotionally complicated. Camille appreciated the acknowledgement. Everyone had been treating her like a warrior, someone who was purely strong and unaffected. But the truth was more complex. She was relieved the legal battles were over. She was satisfied with the outcomes. But she was also tired, emotionally drained, and ready to move on with her life. Thank you for checking in, Camille said. It means a lot. You've handled this entire situation with remarkable grace, Patricia said. A lot of women would have just walked away quietly. You stood up for yourself and held Derek accountable. That takes courage. After ending the call, Camille allowed herself a rare moment of emotion. She had won every legal battle. Derek had been held accountable through both criminal and civil court. Justice had been served. But winning didn't erase the hurt. It didn't undo 2 years of betrayal. It didn't restore the trust Derek had destroyed. The legal strike had accomplished everything Camille set out to do. Derek had lost his freedom, his reputation, and his financial security. He would spend the next several years paying for his crimes, both literally and figuratively. But for Camille, the victory felt hollow. Not because she regretted her actions, she didn't. But because she had lost something too. She had lost 2 years of her life to Derek's lies. She had lost the belief that her marriage meant something. She had lost the ability to trust easily. The legal battles were over. Derek had been defeated. Justice had been served. Now Camille needed to figure out how to move forward and rebuild the parts of her life that Derek had damaged. The war was won. But the healing was just beginning. 3 months after Derek's sentencing, Camille stood in her newly renovated office, looking at the changes she had made. New furniture. New artwork. A complete redesign that eliminated every trace of the past. This space was hers now, unmarked by Derek's presence or anyone else's influence. Sterling Automotive Solutions had experienced unprecedented growth since the divorce. With Derek's theft exposed and stopped, Camille had been able to properly invest in expansion. The European contracts had come through, worth $15 million. The new electric vehicle component line was exceeding projections. 2 smaller companies had been acquired, strengthening Sterling Automotive's market position. The business was thriving. But that success came with unexpected complications. Camille's phone buzzed with a text from Monica. Derek's lawyer requesting meeting. Says it's urgent. Camille sighed. She had hoped Derek was finally out of her life, but apparently not. What does he want now? Didn't say. But Gerald sounds desperate. Worth 5 minutes of your time? Against her better judgment, Camille agreed to a phone call. That afternoon, Gerald's voice came through sounding defeated. Mrs. Sterling, thank you for taking this call. I know you have no obligation to speak with me. That's correct. What do you want? It's about Derek's restitution payments. He's struggling to make them. He's working 3 part-time jobs, but it's not enough to cover the monthly amount ordered by the court. That's not my problem, Camille said bluntly. He stole from me. He owes me that money. How he pays it back is his concern, not mine. I understand, Gerald said carefully. But Derek is 2 months behind on payments. If he falls any further behind, the court will issue a warrant and he'll go back to jail. He's trying, Mrs. Sterling. He really is. He should have tried not to steal from me in the first place. There was a long pause. Derek wanted me to ask if you would consider reducing the monthly payment amount. Maybe extending the timeline. Anything that would make the payments manageable. No, Camille said firmly. The court set those terms based on the amount Derek stole. I'm not reducing anything. If Derek can't make the payments, he can sell whatever possessions he has left. He can get better paying jobs. He can figure it out. But I'm not making this easier for him. He's living in a studio apartment with no furniture, Gerald said quietly. Working 18-hour days just to survive. He's lost everything, Mrs. Sterling. At what point is the punishment enough? Camille felt a flash of anger. He tried to steal my company, Gerald. He spent 2 years betraying me while I worked myself to exhaustion. He mocked me, lied to me, and plotted against me. And you're asking me to feel sorry for him because he's working hard and living in a small apartment? That's my life he's describing. That's how I lived when I was building my company from nothing. The difference is I didn't steal to make it easier. Gerald had no response to that. Derek made his choices, Camille continued. He chose to betray me. He chose to steal from me. He chose to commit crimes. Now he's dealing with the consequences. That's how justice works. Tell Derek the answer is no, and if he contacts me about this again, I'll report it as a violation of the no-contact order. She hung up before Gerald could respond. Later that evening, Camille received an unexpected visitor at her office. Jerome from security called to say Heather was in the lobby asking to speak with her. Tell her to leave, Camille said immediately. She says she's not here to cause problems. She says she needs to apologize properly. Camille considered this. Part of her wanted nothing to do with Heather. But another part was curious about what the woman had to say now that enough time had passed for reality to fully sink in. 5 minutes, Camille said. And Jerome, stay close. Heather looked different from the confident woman who had walked into Camille's office months ago. Her designer clothes were gone, replaced by simple jeans and a sweater. Her hair was pulled back in a plain ponytail. She looked tired and humbled. "Thank you for seeing me," Heather said quietly, standing awkwardly by the door. "You have 5 minutes," Camille said, not inviting her to sit. "I know I don't deserve your time," Heather began. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I needed to tell you how sorry I am for everything. Not just the affair but the way I acted. The things I said about you. The way I participated in Derek's lies." Camille said nothing, just waited. "I've been going to therapy," Heather continued. "Trying to understand how I became the kind of person who would mock another woman for working hard. Who would brag about stealing someone's husband. Who would think any of that was okay." "And what did you learn?" Camille asked coolly. "That I was never really with Derek. I was with the fantasy of him. The man he pretended to be. The successful businessman who chose me. But that man didn't exist. The real Derek was a liar and a thief who was using both of us." "He wasn't using me," Camille corrected. "He was stealing from me. There's a difference." "You're right," Heather acknowledged. "What he did to you was worse. You built something real and he tried to take it. I just got caught up in his lies." Camille studied the younger woman. Heather seemed genuinely remorseful, but that didn't change what had happened. "Why are you really here?" Camille asked. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing," Heather said. "I don't want anything from you. I just wanted you to know that I understand now. I understand what I did was wrong. I understand that you're not the boring, cold woman Derek described. You're someone who worked hard and built something amazing, and I should have respected that instead of mocking you." "You should have respected my marriage," Camille said sharply. "You should have had the decency to walk away when Derek told you he was married. But you didn't. You chose to participate in his betrayal. You chose to laugh about it. You chose to think you were special for stealing another woman's husband." Heather's eyes filled with tears. "I know, and I'm sorry. I can't take it back. I can't undo the damage. But I wanted you to know that I'm not that person anymore. I'm trying to be better." "Good for you," Camille said without warmth. "Now if you're done, I have work to do." Heather nodded and turned to leave. At the door she paused. "Derek is struggling. I know you don't care, but I thought you should know. He's broken. Completely destroyed by what happened." "He destroyed himself," Camille said. "I just stopped enabling him." After Heather left, Camille sat alone in her office for a long time, thinking about the fallout from Derek's crimes. Everyone involved had been affected. Derek had lost everything. Heather had lost her fantasy life. And Camille had lost her trust in people. But there were positive changes too. Sterling Automotive was stronger than ever. Camille had established clear boundaries and learned to protect what was hers. She had proved to herself that she could face betrayal and come out stronger. The fallout continued in other ways. Derek's friends, the ones who had known about the affair and said nothing, found themselves facing consequences. Several of them had wives who learned about their silence and were furious. 2 marriages ended in divorce. Others were damaged badly enough that they might never recover. Camille received apologetic messages from some of these men, claiming they didn't know what to do when they found out about Derek's affair. She ignored most of them. Their silence had made them complicit. The story of Derek's theft and Camille's response spread through the business community, taking on a life of its own. Some people praised Camille for her strength. Others whispered that she had been too harsh, that she should have shown more mercy. Camille didn't care about the whispers. She had done what was necessary to protect herself and her company. People thought she was harsh, so be it. Better to be harsh than to be a victim. 4 months after the divorce, Camille attended a business dinner where she was being honored for her company's growth. As she accepted her award, she looked out at the crowd and saw familiar faces. Colleagues who had supported her. Employees who had worked hard to help Sterling Automotive succeed. Friends who had stood by her during the divorce. And in the back of the room she saw Derek's empty chair. He would have attended this dinner a year ago, pretending to be important. But he wasn't here now. He was working 3 part-time jobs, living in a studio apartment, trying to pay back the money he stole. The fallout had been severe for everyone involved. But Camille had survived it. More than survived, she had thrived. In her acceptance speech, Camille didn't mention Derek or the divorce. She talked about building a business, overcoming obstacles, and staying focused on your goals even when life tries to knock you down. Success isn't just about working hard, she said. It's about protecting what you build. It's about refusing to let anyone take credit for your achievements. It's about knowing your worth and never settling for less than you deserve. The applause that followed was genuine. People respected what Camille had accomplished, both professionally and personally. She had faced betrayal and come out stronger. The fallout would continue for years. Derek's restitution payments, the ripple effects through their social circle, the ongoing recovery from emotional trauma. But Camille was ready for it. She had survived the worst. Everything else was just details. As she left the dinner that night, award in hand, Camille felt something she hadn't felt in years. Genuine pride in herself. Not just for building a successful company but for having the courage to demand respect, to refuse victimhood, and to fight for what was rightfully hers. The fallout had been brutal. But Camille had weathered the storm and emerged victorious. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, Camille walked into her company's new manufacturing facility in Ohio. The building still smelled of fresh paint and new machinery. Workers were setting up production lines while engineers tested equipment. This was Sterling Automotive Solutions' biggest expansion yet, and Camille had overseen every detail personally. "What do you think?" George asked, walking beside her with a tablet full of data. "We're 2 weeks ahead of schedule and under budget." "I think it's perfect," Camille said, watching her employees work with focused efficiency. "This facility will double our production capacity and create 300 new jobs. This is what real success looks like. Not luxury cars for mistresses. Not fake titles and borrowed glory. Real success built on hard work, smart decisions, and unwavering dedication." Back at headquarters the following week, Camille reviewed the company's annual report with satisfaction. Sterling Automotive Solutions had generated $320 million in revenue this year. Profit margins were up 32%. International contracts now represented 40% of total business. Every metric showed phenomenal growth. The company that Derek had tried to steal was now worth more than he could have ever imagined. And it belonged entirely to Camille. Her personal life had also undergone changes, though more slowly. Camille had started seeing a therapist regularly, working through the emotional impact of Derek's betrayal. The sessions were difficult but necessary. "You're allowed to feel hurt," her therapist, Dr. Williams, told her during one session. "You're allowed to grieve the relationship you thought you had. Being strong doesn't mean pretending you don't feel pain." Camille had cried during that session, finally letting herself feel the full weight of what Derek had taken from her. Not money, she could earn that back. But time, trust, and the belief that her marriage meant something. Those losses hurt in ways that courtroom victories couldn't heal. But she was healing slowly. Learning to trust again, starting with herself. Learning that Derek's betrayal said nothing about her worth and everything about his character. Learning that she could be successful and respected without needing validation from a partner. One afternoon, Camille received an unexpected call from Patricia. "I have a business proposition for you," Patricia said. "I'm putting together an investment fund focused on women-owned businesses. I want you to be one of the founding partners." Camille listened as Patricia outlined the concept. Successful women entrepreneurs pooling resources to invest in and mentor other women starting businesses. It was ambitious and aligned perfectly with Camille's values. "I'm interested," Camille said. "Send me the details." The investment fund became Camille's passion project outside of Sterling Automotive. She worked with Patricia and 3 other women to establish criteria for investments and develop a mentorship program. They launched 6 months later with $50 million in initial funding. The first business they invested in was a young woman's tech startup. The founder, a brilliant engineer named Brianna, reminded Camille of herself 12 years ago, hungry, determined, and willing to work harder than anyone else to succeed. "Why are you doing this?" Brianna asked during their first mentorship meeting. "You don't know me. Why invest in my company?" "Because someone should have invested in mine when I was starting out," Camille said honestly. "Because I know how hard it is for women to get taken seriously in business. And because I believe in paying success forward." Over the next year, the investment fund backed 12 women-owned businesses. Camille personally mentored 5 of the founders, sharing everything she had learned about building and protecting a company. Some of them asked about her divorce, having read articles about Derek's crimes. "What's the most important lesson you learned?" one founder asked. "Protect what's yours," Camille said firmly. "Never give anyone access to your business just because you love them. Never put someone's name on anything they didn't earn. And never, ever let anyone take credit for your work. The moment you do, you've given them power to hurt you." The women nodded, taking notes. These lessons, learned through painful experience, were helping a new generation of entrepreneurs avoid similar pitfalls. 18 months after the divorce, Camille attended a charity event downtown. She was there representing Sterling Automotive, which had donated a significant amount to fund STEM education for young women. As she mingled with guests, someone approached her. "Camille Sterling? I'm Nathan Brooks. I work in renewable energy technology." Camille shook his hand, noting his genuine smile and direct eye contact. They talked about the charity's mission, their respective industries, and discovered they had similar philosophies about business and social responsibility. "Would you be interested in having coffee sometime?" Nathan asked as the event wound down. "I'd love to hear more about your company's work with electric vehicle components." Camille hesitated. She hadn't dated anyone since Derek. The thought of trusting someone new felt dangerous. "Just coffee," Nathan said, reading her uncertainty. "No pressure. Just two people who run companies having a conversation." "Okay," Camille said carefully. "Just coffee." They met the following week at a quiet cafe. Conversation flowed easily. Nathan was intelligent, accomplished in his field, and refreshingly honest about his own past mistakes in business. He didn't try to impress Camille with exaggerations or take credit for things he hadn't done. He simply talked about his work with genuine passion. "I looked you up after the charity event," Nathan admitted. "I read about your divorce and what your ex-husband did. That must have been incredibly difficult." "It was," Camille said, appreciating his directness. "But I got through it." "More than got through it," Nathan said. "You handled it with remarkable strength. Not many people would have fought back the way you did." They continued meeting for coffee, then dinner, then occasional weekend activities. Camille was cautious, keeping her guard up, watching for any red flags. But Nathan remained consistent, honest, respectful, and genuinely interested in her as a person, not just as a successful business owner. "I'm not looking to rush anything," Nathan told her after they had been seeing each other for 3 months. "I know trust is hard after what you went through. We can take this as slowly as you need." That patience meant everything to Camille. She wasn't ready to call Nathan her boyfriend or talk about a future together. But she was learning that not everyone was like Derek. Some people were exactly who they appeared to be. 2 years after the divorce, Camille stood on stage at a national business conference, giving the keynote address. The auditorium was packed with entrepreneurs, executives, and business students. She had been asked to speak about building a successful company and overcoming obstacles. 12 years ago, I started Sterling Automotive Solutions in my garage," Camille began, her voice strong and confident. "I had no investors, no connections, and no business degree. What I had was a vision and the determination to make it real." She walked the audience through her journey, the early struggles, the breakthroughs, the expansion. She talked about making difficult decisions, taking calculated risks, and learning from failures. Then she addressed the elephant in the room. "Some of you know that 2 years ago, I discovered my husband had been embezzling from my company and personal accounts. He had stolen over $500,000 to fund an affair. It was the most painful experience of my life." The room was completely silent, everyone listening intently. "I had a choice," Camille continued. "I could have stayed quiet, accepted the betrayal, and moved on quietly. That's what a lot of people expected me to do. But I didn't. I fought back. I demanded accountability. I refused to be a victim." She paused, looking out at the audience. "That decision cost me my marriage. It cost me friendships. It made me look harsh to some people who thought I should have been more forgiving. But it gave me something more valuable, my self-respect. My company. My future." Camille clicked to her final slide, showing Sterling Automotive's current success metrics. "Today, Sterling Automotive Solutions is stronger than ever. We've expanded internationally. We've doubled our revenue. We've created hundreds of jobs. None of that would have been possible if I had let someone steal from me without consequences." She faced the audience directly. "The lesson isn't just about protecting your business. It's about protecting yourself. It's about knowing your worth and refusing to accept less than you deserve. It's about understanding that sometimes the hardest decisions are the right ones." The applause was overwhelming. People stood up, clapping, some with tears in their eyes. After the speech, dozens of people approached Camille, sharing their own stories of betrayal and recovery. Women who had faced similar situations. Men who had watched their mothers or sisters struggle with unfaithful partners. Young entrepreneurs who were learning what it meant to protect what they built. "You inspired me to leave my husband," one woman said, gripping Camille's hand. "He wasn't stealing money, but he was taking credit for my work, making me feel small. Your story gave me the courage to walk away." "Thank you for being honest," a young man said. "My mom went through something similar, but she never fought back. I wish she had seen someone like you showing her it was possible." Camille listened to each person, offered what encouragement she could, and felt a deep sense of purpose. Her pain had meaning now. Her struggle had helped others find their own strength. That evening, Camille sat in her hotel room, looking out at the city lights. Her phone buzzed with a text from Nathan. Saw the video of your speech. You were incredible. Proud of you. She smiled. Nathan had become a genuine part of her life over the past year. A friend, a support, and slowly something more. They were taking things carefully, but Camille was beginning to believe that maybe someday she could trust someone again. Another text came through, this one from Monica. Derek completed his jail sentence today. He's officially a free man. Wanted you to know in case it affects anything. Camille stared at that message for a long moment. Derek was out of jail. Back in the world. Living whatever life he had managed to build from the ruins of his crimes. She felt nothing. No anger, no fear, no satisfaction. Just nothing. Derek had become irrelevant to her life. He was someone who had hurt her once, but who no longer had any power over her present or future. She deleted Monica's message and went back to reviewing plans for Sterling Automotive's next expansion. 3 years after the divorce, Camille received a letter. It was forwarded through her lawyer. Derek, respecting the no-contact order, had sent it to Monica, who had decided to pass it along to Camille with the note. You can read it or throw it away. Your choice. Camille almost threw it away without reading it. But curiosity won out. The letter was handwritten, Derek's familiar script filling 2 pages. Camille, I know I have no right to contact you even through lawyers. I know I destroyed everything between us. But I wanted you to know that I understand now what I did to you. Not just the theft, the betrayal of trust, the disrespect, the cruelty of taking credit for your work. I've had a lot of time to think. Time in jail, time working minimum wage jobs, time watching my life fall apart. I blamed you for a long time. Thought you were too harsh, too unforgiving. But I was wrong. You did what you had to do to protect yourself and your company. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm not asking you to reduce my payments or help me. I know I have to live with the consequences of my actions. I just wanted you to know that you were right. About everything. You built something amazing and I tried to steal it. You trusted me and I betrayed that trust. You deserved better than what I gave you. I'm sorry for all of it. I hope you're happy. I hope you found success and peace. You deserve both. Derek. Camille read the letter twice, then carefully folded it and put it away. She didn't respond. There was nothing to say. Derek's apology, whether genuine or not, didn't change anything. It didn't undo the past or heal the wounds he had caused. But it did give her closure. The knowledge that Derek finally understood what he had done. That he had taken responsibility for his actions. That he knew she had been right to fight back. That evening, Camille met Nathan for dinner. They had been together for over a year now, taking things slowly but steadily. He knew about Derek, knew about the betrayal, knew about Camille's caution. I got a letter from Derek today, Camille told him over dessert. An apology. How do you feel about that? Nathan asked carefully. Nothing, Camille said honestly. It's nice to know he understands what he did wrong. But it doesn't change anything. My life moved on without him. Nathan smiled. Your life did more than move on. You built something incredible. Not just your company, your strength, your integrity, your willingness to stand up for yourself. That's rare, Camille. Looking at Nathan across the table, Camille felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not just hope for her business or her success, but hope for her personal life. Hope that maybe she could trust again. Hope that not everyone would betray her. Thank you, she said quietly. For being patient with me. For understanding why I'm cautious. Always, Nathan said. You're worth the patience. 5 years after the divorce, Camille stood in her office at Sterling Automotive Solutions, looking at the latest quarterly report. The company had reached $500 million in annual revenue. They had facilities in 6 states and partnerships with manufacturers on 3 continents. Over 2,000 people depended on Sterling Automotive for their livelihoods. And it was all hers. Every bit of it earned through hard work, smart decisions, and unwavering dedication. Camille's investment fund had backed 47 women-owned businesses, with a 90% success rate. Her mentorship program had helped hundreds of women entrepreneurs navigate the challenges of building companies. Her story had inspired countless others to stand up for themselves and refuse to accept betrayal. On her desk sat a photo from last month. Camille standing with the 12 women from her first investment cohort, all of them now running successful businesses. They called themselves Sterling Squad, a name that made Camille laugh but also touched her deeply. Her personal life had also found equilibrium. Nathan had proposed 6 months ago and Camille had said yes. They were planning a small wedding for next spring, just close friends and family. Camille had been nervous about marriage again, but Nathan had proved himself over 4 years of consistency, honesty, and genuine partnership. "We'll get a prenup," Nathan had said before even proposing. "I want you to feel completely secure. Your company, your assets, all protected. This marriage is about us, not about your money." That gesture had meant everything to Camille. Nathan understood that her caution came from experience, and he respected it completely. A knock on her office door interrupted Camille's thoughts. Jerome from security entered with an unusual expression. "You have a visitor," he said. "It's unusual. Derek Morrison is downstairs asking to see you. Says he knows he's not supposed to contact you, but he's asking if you'll make an exception just this once." Camille's first instinct was to refuse. The no-contact order was there for a reason. But curiosity made her pause. What could Derek possibly want after 5 years? "Tell him I'll give him 5 minutes, Camille said. "But you stay in the room with us." Derek looked completely different from the man she had divorced. He was thinner, his clothes were worn but clean, and his face showed every year of hard living. He looked like someone who had been broken down and was slowly rebuilding from nothing. "Thank you for seeing me," Derek said quietly, standing awkwardly just inside the door. "I know I don't have any right to be here." "You don't," Camille agreed. "What do you want?" "I wanted to tell you in person that I've finished my restitution payments," Derek said. "The last payment cleared yesterday. I know it took the full 5 years, but I did it. I paid back every penny." Camille nodded. She knew this already. Monica had informed her when the final payment arrived. But Derek clearly needed to say it himself. "I also wanted to tell you congratulations," Derek continued. "On your company's success. On your engagement. I saw the announcement. On everything you've accomplished. You deserve all of it." "Is that all?" Camille asked. Derek hesitated. "I wanted to ask you something. Not a favor, just advice. I'm trying to rebuild my life. I've been working, staying clean, going to therapy. But I don't know how to move forward when everyone knows what I did. How do I become someone trustworthy again?" Camille studied him for a long moment. This broken man asking for advice about rebuilding trust. The irony wasn't lost on her. "You don't get to become trustworthy again," Camille said bluntly. "Not with the people you hurt. Trust, once destroyed, doesn't come back. What you can do is become trustworthy going forward with new people. You can make different choices. You can be honest. You can work hard without stealing credit. But the people you betrayed? You don't get their trust back. That's the price you pay." Derek nodded slowly, absorbing this harsh truth. "That's fair. Thank you for being honest." "Derek," Camille said as he turned to leave, "did you actually learn anything from all this?" He paused, thinking carefully. "I learned that I was never the person I pretended to be. I wasn't successful. I wasn't important. I was just a man living off someone else's success and calling it my own. And I learned that the hard way." "Good," Camille said. "Then maybe you'll do better going forward." After Derek left, Jerome looked at Camille with admiration. "That was generous of you. Seeing him, I mean." "It wasn't generous," Camille said. "It was closure. For both of us." That evening, Camille went home to the house she still owned, the same house she had shared with Derek, but completely remodeled and redesigned. Every room reflected her taste now, unmarked by Derek's presence. Nathan was there, cooking dinner and singing along badly to music playing from his phone. He looked up when she entered and smiled. "How was your day?" "Interesting," Camille said, wrapping her arms around him. Derek came by the office. Nathan tensed slightly. "Everything okay?" "Everything's fine," Camille assured him. "He finished his restitution payments. Wanted to tell me in person. It's officially over now. How do you feel?" Camille considered the question. Relieved. Satisfied. Ready to never think about it again. Nathan kissed her forehead. "Then let's have dinner and talk about literally anything else. I was thinking we should finalize the wedding venue this week." They spent the evening planning their wedding, discussing honeymoon options, and laughing at Nathan's terrible cooking. It was normal and comfortable and exactly what Camille needed. Later that night, as Camille got ready for bed, she looked at herself in the mirror. The woman looking back was different from the one who had stood frozen in a parking garage 5 years ago, listening to a mistress mock her. That woman had been devastated, broken, unsure of her path forward. This woman was strong, confident, successful, healed. The journey from that parking garage to this moment had been brutal. It had required strength Camille didn't know she possessed. It had demanded that she fight when every instinct said to hide. It had forced her to value herself enough to demand accountability. But she had done it. She had taken back her power, protected her company, and rebuilt her life into something even better than before. The new beginning wasn't just about Sterling Automotive's success or the investment fund or her upcoming marriage. The new beginning was about Camille herself, a woman who had learned that her worth wasn't tied to anyone else's opinion, that her success belonged to her alone, and that she had the strength to overcome anything life threw at her. She had wanted revenge and she had gotten it. Derek had lost everything while Camille thrived. But more importantly, Camille had reclaimed herself. She had refused to be a victim. She had stood up, fought back, and won. And now, 5 years later, Camille Sterling stood on the other side of betrayal, not broken, not bitter, but stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever came next. The past was finally behind her. The future stretched ahead, bright with possibility. And this time, Camille was building it entirely on her own terms.